Justin Robertson, also known as Squigs, has been putting his stamp on Broadway for years in the form of illustrations capturing bright stars and landmark shows. Now he's released his amazing creations as the collectible Lights of Broadway show cards. Paul's here with more.
That's right, Tamsin. Justin Robertson, aka Squigs, has been dazzling Broadway with his illustrations for well over a decade now. I met up with him at the theater haunt Sardi's to discuss his work, his inspirations, and his ever-popular Lights of Broadway show cards. I love your work because it all has a great through line. When you see one of your pieces, you know, okay, well, Squigs drew that. But also, you really capture so many moods and styles and visuals, and like it's really fun.
One of my goals is to reflect what so many people have put into each show, not just the people that are on stage and performing, but the designers, and you know, try to I try to incorporate a certain direction that is pivotal and really meant something to me while I was watching it as an audience member. I'm just so enthusiastic, so you know, trying to put as much in as possible.
Okay, so not only do you create these amazing drawings you put out into the world, you also now have these Lights of Broadway cards.
Yes, Lights of Broadway
and there are
show
a lot
cards.
of them. So you do individual sort of like play. It's like baseball cards.
Baseball cards for Broadway
show
fans.
kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Broadway fans.
We came out with our first edition this summer of 2015. We were lucky at that point to have a lot of shows on Broadway that had a bunch of kids in them. You know, our demographic is really wide. We have, you know, people of all ages collecting the cards. But that particular year, we were at the flea market with the cards, and some of the cast of School of Rock and Matilda and Kinky Boots came by the table, and they were all buying packs. And they were not only doing that, but they were like calling out to people walking by, buy some cards so we can trade with you. And to hear like an 11-year-old kid go, I got a Stephen Sondheim, he's the king. I literally in the middle of Times Square burst into tears because I'm like, oh, this is obviously striking a chord with some people, and it made us know that we had something, you know, kind of special.
So every year you release a new set.
Mm-hmm.
So you just recently released the
2021
edition.
At the end of last year. You want to open a pack?
Oh my God, I would love
I'll
to
open a pack.
So every pack is different.
Yeah, there's 5 cards in each pack.
5 in each pack. And how many cards?
In this edition, we have, I think, 120, 130-ish cards.
Okay, so I got Martin Charnin, who created Annie, a very important show. And so on the back, you have great bios of
some
everybody.
fun facts.
I love these, actually. They're really well written. And then I got a Lion King, Circle of Life. Oh, wait. Oh, so, okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you about that, because I got a couple of those.
two-sided.
I got a couple of those cards as well. We in the past 2 editions, we've done like a 9-card mini-series where it follows a theme, and then on the back, you collect all 9, and it creates one big illustration. But yeah, it's super fun.
And I got Terrence Archie, who's currently married to Patti LuPone in Company.
Yes.
And he also fought Andy Carl in Rocky.
Yes.
Pat Suzuki, icon.
Yes. This is from our mini-series that we have called Golden Age, and we pick Broadway legends who had maybe their heyday in like the 1960s and before.
Amazing.
And so we have a lot of really
Who'd you
amazing. I got Graciela Danielle, a legendary Broadway performer, choreographer, director.
Created Once on This Island, one of the best shows
amazing. And I got like Hairspray. I got Joshua Henry.
Nice.
Yes,
Very
amazing.
talented guy.
This edition we have a couple of movie musical cards.
Oh.
So we have a little In the Heights here. So yeah.
In the Heights movie.
Yeah. So and then we have a West Side Story movie card as well.
You actually have a card there that I think I need to look at.
Is this the card?
Yeah.
Yes, we are coming out with a new wave of press cards. And
press cards.
Yes. And so yeah, you take a peek at that.
So this is the Broadway show with Tamsin Fidel, the card, and I am featured on it along with Charlie Cooper and Tamsin Fidel. So let's talk quickly about your process. What is the actual process of seeing it until the finished piece?
I'll find out what I'm going to be drawing, and I look up what visuals are out there. When I go to the theater, I take a little notebook with me and take notes, and they look awful. It's nothing.
Drawings.
Little drawings and writing down words, you know, just to remind me of something. And then I go home and I make a pencil sketch, put a clean piece of paper over it, and do an ink sketch over that. And then the ink sketch goes into Photoshop, scan it into the computer, and I do my layout and coloring in Photoshop.
Right. So it's a combination of hand and computer.
Yeah, exactly. You know, old school and new school.
And all of this stuff is available. What is the website?
Our website is thelightsofbroadway.nyc, and if you happen to be in Midtown, just down the street here, Theater Circle on 44th Street and 1 Schubert Alley in Schubert Alley are stocking our cards. And I think they also have the playing cards in stock as well.
Since we're at Sardi's,
Yeah.
we are surrounded by drawings of
We
Broadway
are.
stars and Broadway creatives. I would love to talk a little bit about the history of this place, because I think
Sure.
you know it.
I know a lot about this. Sardi's opened in this location in 1927. Vincent Sardi Sr. was looking for a bit of a gimmick to get people to come in off the street, and he saw a guy named Alex Gard drawing locals, regulars on napkins, and hired him to draw caricatures. And their first contract, their only contract, gave him as payment for these caricatures 1 meal a day. So he could have a free meal every day at Sardi's for his, caricatures that he did on the walls. And so he was around the late 20s, and he passed in 1948. They were going to retire the tradition, but the locals and the regulars were like, no, keep it going. And so they found an artist named John Mackey, who had a short run, about 5 years, and then he was replaced with Donald Bevan. He retired in 1976, and then they had a contest to find a caricaturist.
Oh, wow.
And the person that they found was Richard Barretts, who I think at that point was studying at School of Visual Arts, studying banknote and certificate engraving and caricatures on the side. And so he started doing the caricatures then and has been doing them ever since. But in the mid-90s, there is a small window of time that I think Richard might have been doing something else, but they had someone sub in for a short window of time. Her name is Marilyn Church, and she's well known as a courtroom illustrator, but she still creates fine art. You can still find her art around here. And all of these are actually reproductions. When a new person is caricatured, the original goes in a vault, and 2 copies are made. One goes to the subject and one goes on the wall and is signed. And that is because when Jimmy Cagney died, someone walked in,
Stole it.
took it off the wall, walked out with it, and it was never solved.
Would-be criminals, don't consider it. These are not originals.
Yes.